As typical, the condenser water pipes are not insulated, allowing us the opportunity to see the single-sphere neoprene expansion joint flexible connectors, complete with control rods. Here, I'm confirming that the rods are loose, which is important to minimize vibration transmission. Walking around to the second expansion joint, everything seems to be in good shape here as well. When I tried to move the control rod, however, I found it to be tight, meaning that either the expansion joint has extended to its maximum length, or more likely that the nuts were just set too tight. This isn't dangerous, but it could allow chiller vibrations to bypass the joint and find their way into the building and create noise. Is this the right expansion joint in the right place? These are neoprene joints, and as with the previous example, since this is condenser water and it's not going to be at a temperature or pressure that exceeds the joint limits, these are okay. Is the misalignment no more than 1/8 of an inch? The pipes appear to be adequately aligned. I noticed that the upper flange and lower flange appear to be slightly rotated relative to each other, but it wasn't excessive since the control rods were still able to line up okay through the holes in the control rod plates. So this is okay. Are the control rods installed okay? This question is a little different from before when we were making sure they weren't needed, so here that they have been installed, we'll consider a couple extra questions. Are the rods straight, even, and loose? They do appear straight and aligned with the center line of the pipe. The two rods are evenly distributed around the pipe, being on opposite sides from each other, and they are loose on one of the two pipes but tight on the other, as we saw in the video. So this one is a maybe. It would be good to try to loosen up the control rods, but if there aren't any noise problems, it could be left as is. Are the rubber washers and jam nuts installed okay? The rubber washers, which are needed to minimize any vibration transmission through the rods since they can act as short circuit paths even when loose, are installed, and the jam nuts needed to prevent excessive movement are also installed, though perhaps a little too close on the one joint, but they're there, so this point is okay. Overall, question number 3 is mostly okay, but as mentioned, if there is a noise problem, the control rods should be loosened. Is the expansion joint properly supported? In this case, the short length pipe below the joint is supported by its connection with the chiller, and the pipe above is supported by hanger rods to the structure above. It is best to minimize the amount of pipe between the chiller and the joint since the chiller connections are not designed to take much load. Since the control rods are loose on the one joint, that one is definitely okay. The joint isn't supporting more weight than its own. I would guess that even though the rods are not loose on the second joint, it's probably okay as well since there is very little pipe between it and the chiller connection. So we'll call this okay. Are the bolt heads against the connector flange? Nope, just as before, the bolts are backwards. But also as before, I found no damage to the bodies of the joints, so there's no need to ask the contractor to fix this. We'll call this one close enough. Is the face-to-face dimension correct? I didn't measure these, but probably should have at least measured the second one. Neither one looked excessively stretched or squished, so I think I'll call these close enough, and okay as well. Is the joint attached directly to the pipe flanges? Yes, in both cases. They got that right, so that's okay. Are the bolts tight enough? Again, I didn't check these with a torque wrench, but loose bolts can allow leaks, and there was no evidence of that, so I would call this close enough and okay as is. Are the flanges not touching? Nope, the flange bolts have not been over-tightened, and there are gaps between all pipe and joint flanges, so that's okay.